Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, and every week we try to bring you stories that will inspire you in some way to see new possibilities for your community, locally, globally, and digitally. And we are part of Rotary International, 1.2 million members around the world and 36,000 clubs dedicated to making a difference in the lives of others. When we look for a cool program, we look for those stories that touch both the heart and the head, right? That speak to us about the sustainability of a great idea. And that also speak to our hearts. And we have such a program for you today. So our speaker today is Gordon Hartman. He spent years at running a business, a real estate business in San Antonio, did very well, and then moved into his calling. And we are excited for that calling to be part of the story. You read his bio as you were coming in on our meeting page, and we will let him take it from there. Gordon, thank you so much for being a part of our program. And welcome to the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And as you talked about the number of clubs, I've had the honor of speaking to many Rotarians over the years. And so this adds to the collection of many wonderful people that I have met and gotten to know through this wonderful organization. The story is one of, I'm very blessed to be able to tell. As was mentioned, I was in the home building land development business and also in the mortgage business and title business and insurance company business. And back in 2005, I had the opportunity to sell that company, or those many companies. And I was at a very young age because I started at 19 with my own company. And so for 22 years, built it into a pretty large company. And so at the age of 41, numerous different opportunities came up to be able to sell what we had put together. And so I sold the company and didn't immediately know what to do because I went from running numerous companies to, okay, what am I going to do next? And I am blessed with a daughter who has special needs. Her name is Morgan, a wonderful, wonderful young lady who's now 28 years old. At that time, she was only 11. And she deals with cognitive delay. Even though she's 28, she is at a cognitive level about a 4 or 5-year-old. She's had to deal with numerous physical issues as well. Matter her entire back has had to be rebuilt with 26 screws and 2 rods, but she's, because of the medicines and the great doctors that have done other surgeries on her, she's living a pretty normal life from a physical perspective now. But as I mentioned, I had this opportunity to look at what was I going to do in the second half of my life, and where I put that focus was in assisting individuals with special needs. And the reason that was something I really wanted to do is, as I got to know more and more of people who were parents of special needs individuals and caregivers, is that Morgan was one of the lucky ones. You know, Morgan had the doctor, she had the therapist, she had a caregiver, because my wife and I have been blessed to be able to give her everything that she needs. So we wanted to look at ways in which I could get heavily involved and really making a difference in the lives of those who maybe are not as lucky as Morgan, who many times need opportunities. And so we formed a foundation in 2005, late 2005. And at that time, we funded it with the idea of simply helping local nonprofits and the idea of making them bigger, larger, and being able to do what they wanted to do. But then we had an experience in 2006 where we were on a family vacation, and Morgan wanted for the second time in the day to go swimming. And so I said, Maggie, I'll take Morgan down the pool and we'll go swimming we'll just jump in, we'll splash around for a while and have some fun. I got out of the pool because Morgan wanted to stay in, and I just said, I'll watch you. And so there were 3 other children at the other end of the pool, and 2 of them were throwing a ball back and forth. And Morgan kept looking at them and kept slowly moving. It was a small pool, and kind of kept moving toward them a little bit. And I watched from my chair, and she couldn't go up to him and verbally say, hey guys, can I play? Instead, what she did is she hit the ball. That was her way of saying, I want to play. Can I be involved? Well, these very nice children grabbed the ball very quickly and got out of the pool. As I'm telling you this, I can see Morgan's face. I don't understand, Dad. So I jumped in the pool and we splashed around a little bit more and had some fun. But it kept, as I'm telling you right now, as it did that time and right after that period, it just kept haunting me, the fact that all Morgan wanted to do is be involved. She's a young girl who just wants to be included. So my wife and I started talking about, we can't go to Disney World and we can't do these things. They do great jobs in respect to assisting, but many times crowds and sounds and certain things just would not allow Morgan to do some of the things that she wanted to do. And so we thought, well, where could we take Morgan where she could be included and play? And many people told me about different places around the country. I went and visited them, and it wasn't anything like we were thinking about. So I said, let's have a meeting, let's talk about it, see if anybody has an interest in an idea. And the idea is to build an inclusive park. And what that would be is that those with special needs and those without special needs would come together and play. So that everything we would do would have to make sure that no matter how acute someone's special need may be or how mild their special need may be, they can play alongside someone who may not have any special need at all. The thought was, will this work? Well, let's hope that with children who don't have special needs want to play with those who have special needs, who may act differently or have a situation that's different than theirs that they may see as being unique. We went ahead and put some people together to look at the idea of doing it, and ultimately built Morgan's Wonderland. From that time of the pool event to the time of opening was 39 months and the building of a $36 million park. It's called Morgan's Wonderland, after the person who basically inspired it. Since then, some 2.3 million people have come from all 50 states and 122 countries from around the world. It has inspired other activities to be able to create an environment where people can come together and enjoy each other with being able to play, interact with 26 different types of activities, but everyone plays together. You may have someone who has no special need playing right alongside someone who doesn't have any special need at all playing together, whether it be a simple thing such as a train ride, an off-road adventure ride, a Ferris wheel, whatever the case may be. But everything had to be developed to ensure that we never say the word no. So in other words, no matter how acute someone's special need may be, even if they can only come with a nurse with them or a doctor with them because of their condition, and because maybe they can only leave the hospital for 5 hours, they can still enjoy this place, as well as someone who may want to run around and have as much fun as they possibly have and have no issues at all. So it's a whole new concept, a whole new way. And so what we did in 2017, kind of moving forward here, is we then said there were two things that we heard from people that people wanted. One, they wanted potentially the idea of a water park, same concept of Morgan's One, but add water. So we built Morgan's Inspiration Island. Now you might say, well, that's an easy thing to do. You just build a few things and add water. Well, you got to think about a lot of different things because of the fact that in dealing with cognitive and physical special needs, let me give you an example of just a wheelchair. Wheelchairs can't go in water, chlorinated water, because after time that will ruin them. So what happened is we basically had to come up with a pneumatic wheelchair, a wheelchair that can work underwater or work within water. And we did that to make sure that we were ultra accessible, fully inclusive. At that point, we then decided that we wanted to move on and do some other projects to be able to expand the idea of full inclusiveness, ultra accessibility. So we said, well, why not make it to where those with and without special needs can play baseball together, basketball together, pickleball, tennis, soccer, football. So we built Morgan's Wonderland Sports, a facility right next to Morgan's Wonderland that would allow those with and without special needs, or maybe a whole team of people in wheelchairs, to be able to play baseball or softball, something they never thought they could do together in an organized sport. But then maybe next door, people are playing another sport of basketball with those with and without special needs playing together. Incredible success of bringing people together in this respect. But then we said, well, what else opportunities do exist? And one thing I learned very quickly is that Morgan loves to go on to a camp. But here's the thing, if you were to call 10 camps in Texas, I'm using Texas as an example, 9 of those, if I explain Morgan's situation, probably will tell me, I'm sorry, we can't take Morgan, simply because of situation with her cognitive ability, her limited ability on being able to deal with hygiene issues, et cetera. Also, those that do were very expensive. And so we said, if we're going to build Morgan's Wonderland Camp, but we're going to make sure that if someone comes in a wheelchair or has a visual impairment or has cognitive disability, that they can also be able to enjoy the challenge course just like anybody else. As a matter of fact, someone in a wheelchair could be 22 feet above the ground in this challenge course and stay in their wheelchair while doing it. Someone in a wheelchair can actually go and we can zip line up to 11 stories high because we developed things to make sure it was for everybody, not just for 85% of the population, because about 15% of the population has some form of special need. So we're thinking about everybody being included. The one thing we're working on right now that we're looking forward to opening in July of this year is a new multi-assistance center at Morgan's Wonderland. And that's going to be a new 165,000 square foot facility that will deal in medical, therapeutic, and social determinants of health. We all know how difficult it is to sometimes work with insurance companies and be able to get the right things done, et cetera. Now put yourself in the shoes of someone who is maybe a divorced mother who has 3 children, whose one child is autistic. How does she ever maneuver through all the different insurance needs and make sure that her child gets medical needs and also therapeutic needs and social determinants of health, make sure that he's fed well and make sure that the whole family is fed well and make sure that if there are any legal issues, those can be taken care of. And then maybe when he's a little older, what opportunities may exist for employment. Well, what we've done is put that all within one structure, one place, kind of a one-stop shop called the MAC. And many times when they hear the MAC, they think that means medical. What it means is multi-assistance center, because we're dealing with all the issues, social determinants of health, therapeutic activities, all the way from physical therapy to music therapy to any type of therapy you could think of. And then of course, also medical as well. And we're doing that through the use of a navigator that will take what their needs are through one triage and be able to understand exactly what the issues are. And that family or those caregivers will never have to tell that story again, because at that point, that will feed out to all the people, not only in that building, but other partners that we have who want to work with us in the effort of what we're trying to do. We believe that the multi-assistance center, as it will prove out over the next 18 months, will be a true game changer in being able to assist our friends with special needs in these very important areas. And so these are a few things that we're doing. We've got a lot of other things on the docket that we want to still do because the needs are great. And as I mentioned early on, Morgan is one of the lucky ones. She's the one who has what she needs, but there are so many who don't. And so what we're going to do, and what we're going to continue to do in even a more aggressive fashion in the many years to come, since it will be 12 years since Morgan's Wonderland opened in 2010, is we're going to continue to expand our reach, but really try to, in a big way, bring the needs of special needs to the table. There's many good movements occurring right now in many good areas to really bring some focus on a certain percentage of populations that we deserve that. I think special needs ought to be at that table as well. And we hope that what we're doing here in the community of San Antonio will be able to address that for this nation and literally for the world, for the benefit of our friends with special needs.
Gordon, that's fantastic. I am really excited for us to get into the Q&A. There are so many kind of interesting pieces that I think we can explore. First thing I'd like to do, though, is introduce the set of people who are taking part in the recording. And so from the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, we have Shag Shagrin here in the Bay Area. We have Cecilia Babker currently down in Palm Springs. We have our friends of the club, Melanie Zate and John Tra in Maryland. John, are you in Michigan or Maryland? All right. So, sorry, I caught you off guard there. Maryland. Got it. And Melissa in Hawaii, Melissa Ye, good to have you as well. And my name is Rushton Hurley. I am in San Jose. So in terms of getting things started with the question, I'd like for us to look at the nature of the vision for a minute. So I was first introduced to your work through the 10-year anniversary special, right? Mm. The recording of that, which was very, very moving. And one of the things that struck me is that Morgan's Wonderland it looks like high-end theme parks. This is not kind of a no frills place, right? This is a beautifully done, expansive, bold vision for what can be. Would you say that by aiming for here instead of let's see if we can make this happen, you were able to gather the kind of interest and support you needed to launch this?
I think so. That's a great question. Look, we wanted to do what my experience was early on in the process after we formed the foundation. Is many times I was trying to learn before the situation occurred where we were going to build Morgan's Wonderland. I was trying to learn about nonprofits and the needs that exist out there. And what I found is many times things are done maybe kind of so-so. and not to the level of quality. And so I said, if we're going to build a facility like this that is going to be geared towards a different approach, then we have to do it right. Then we have to make sure we succeed, not just with the rides, but also the way in which we go about the way in which we do customer service. Everything had to be done the right way so we can set a whole new tone. And so Morgan's Wonderland was 12 years ago, cost of 12 years ago, was a $36 million park. Then we added on Morgan's Inspiration Island. And then I added on the other things that we just mentioned that we're doing right now. So we will have about $150 million of capital and expenditures through many different ventures that we're now doing just in the past 12 years. And the reason that we have gone to that high level of really doing things in a big way is to really give expression to the fact that there's a great need for this. You know, we can have the best theme park or the best this or that of what we do. But we hope from a cumulative perspective that we are really bringing attention to a group that needs more attention and needs, as I mentioned earlier, a seat at the table. So we knew that if we did this in a small way, it would never have the opportunity to maybe expand to what it is today. And so we're impressed with how the community, not just the community here in San Antonio, but the community in Texas, around the country, have come together not just to help us build what we have built, but also continue to help us in many ways with the expansion of our ideas. Because the time has well passed for what we are doing. And the idea of inclusion is so important. Just imagine as I used to when I was younger, and sometimes I wasn't always picked first to play on a team. Well, how about if you were never picked? How did you feel? And we want to take that away. We want to make sure that every individual, whether they have cognitive or physical special needs, always has an opportunity to be picked, to be a part, to be included. And so had we done it a small way, we wouldn't probably be talking today. Instead, we've seen people from all over the world, well over 120 different nations, have in some way come and experience what we have to offer. So I'm glad we did what we did, and we're going to continue to expand upon that opportunity.
That leads beautifully into a question added in the chat from Cecilia about outreach. So there, clearly people find out about this. They want their loved ones to be able to experience something like this, and they come from everywhere. Are you also advising groups that are organizations that are working to build similar things? There's a wonderful playground here in San Jose that the Rotary Club of San Jose actually put a lot of work into helping launch some years ago. And I'm wondering, like, have you found that you are now the go-to people for questions about how to replicate what you've been doing?
There are parks all around this nation that have made adjustments based on coming to visit Morgan's Wonderland. There is no park that has been fully developed that is truly ultra accessible to the extent of Morgan's Wonderland. Here's what we do know, though. There are parks in many different cities who have contacted us. We have worked with them, and they have made adjustments, whether it be to make sure that someone who's in a wheelchair can swing, to make sure maybe an adjustment was made to a certain ride in this way or that way. And we put them with our manufacturers to be able to do that. And so I think Morgan's Wonderland has led to that. And now with what we did in the water park, where we created the boat ride and the way you get on the boat and the way the boat was designed is now a standard structure of how the boats are made throughout all those kind of boat rides by that particular boat company. And so the R&D that we did there has now led to more people who may have a physical special need or a cognitive need to be able to get onto a boat much easier. And the things that we are doing out at the camp or have led to other ideas, even though the camp is somewhat new, it just opened less than a year ago. Already the challenge course and the way in which we went about building the opportunity for someone to be on a zip line, who may be on oxygen, who may be in a wheelchair, who may either have visual impairment or hearing impairment, maybe on a feeding tube, whatever the case may be, they can zip line just like anybody else. People are looking at these ideas now and saying, yeah, why can't we do that? And it's not that it's real expensive to do it. You just have to think outside the box to make it happen. And that's all it is. It's taking a time out. I often refer to it as a time out to say, what can be done to ensure that's for everybody? Because no one should be left behind for any reason, whether it be for cognitive or physical needs or any type of issue that they may have. It's all about bringing everybody together. So yes, we have seen people, and I think we'll continue to see. And I think about the Multi-Assistance Center. We see that now. The state of Texas is recognizing that as a demonstration project. We've been in discussions with people from the Department of Defense about what opportunities may exist in respect to that. but we're still at the early stages of that. I think when we talk in 2 or 3 years from now, maybe we'll be talking about future MACs that will be coming to assist individuals with special needs. So as I always tell people, we're just getting started. And that's one of the ways in which we feel the opportunity, the need is so great. We can't stop. We need to do more.
Excellent. I'll keep watching the chat for more questions. In the meantime, you talk about something like the opportunity to be on a zip line when you have oxygen, or to engage in a water park when you're in a wheelchair. I'm wondering if there are a number of kind of lower levels, the wrong term, but accommodations that are a part of what happens in the different programs that you've got going, that are the kind of things people might not expect. I think people understand that if you're in a wheelchair and you come up to a traditional playground that doesn't have accommodations, that kid is watching everybody else play, which, that's terrible, right? But there are any number of other things, whether it has to do with cochlear implants or something that you guys have probably explored and found answers to that might be interesting for the audience. I mean, just what other accommodations that maybe are a little less less obvious, I guess, for people to know.
I'm gonna give you a real simple one. The ADA says that slopes shall not exceed just a little over 8%. Well, if you're in a wheelchair and you're going at 8% slope for a long period of time, even though there would be locations where you would stop and then go another 8%, for a long distance, go another 8%, et cetera. That gets very difficult. So as an example, we knew when we built the camp that we had to keep the slopes not to exceed 5% anywhere, because we wanted, if someone was in a wheelchair and they were staying in a cabin and they wanted to go to another area of the camp, this is a 102-acre camp, that they could be able to get from point A to point B in their wheelchair independently. Now, if they didn't want to, we had to have other ways to accommodate them. But if they wanted to have an 8% slope at certain areas would probably make it very difficult for them to achieve that physically. And so we made sure that it's 5%. That's a small detail, but a big detail to someone who's in a wheelchair. Also to someone who may have visual impairment, being able to deal with an incline that is less is easier to do. And so there's a lot of these little things that can be done, both from a physical need that may exist, or a cognitive, or like you mentioned, possibly hearing impairment. At the MAC, for example, there are certain things that if someone enters that building, that we'll be dealing with helping and assisting individuals who have hearing impairment and visual impairment that many times may be taken for granted. We'll have within that building calming rooms. So that if someone has a situation that emotionally is not controllable based on maybe their special need, that we can have ways of being able to handle that properly without disrupting many of the activities that will be going on in a facility that will accommodate some 10,000 people on patients per day and some 500 to 600 appointments per day. So we're trying to come up with different ways in which we can do things to ensure through things that we have experienced over the years to make things better for everyone who's involved. And it's these small things. Again, I always emphasize that it's not major things, but I'll give you one other example if I may. The city of San Antonio became the 12th international airport to actually have adult changing tables. Well, there's hundreds of international airports, but there's only 12 in this country that actually have adult changing tables. Well, what's the big deal about an adult changing table? Morgan happens to be 6'5", very tall young lady, and also of a weight that a regular changing table doesn't work. So if we're traveling, we have to try to deal with being able to accommodate what her needs may be. If that is not available, then it makes it very difficult for people just to have a simple travel or be able to get on a plane. And so these are the kind of small things. So we went to the airport and said, can you develop that? Well, we've never been asked. Well, maybe if we just think about it, take a time out, maybe we can accommodate things that before were never asked for. So it's the small things that make the big difference.
Fantastic. A wonderful comment from Melanie in the chat. I'm so impressed to see a family turn their situation into a beautiful story that can inspire others. Congratulations to you and your wife. And we are so grateful to have Morgan with us.
Well, Morgan is quite an inspiration. When people meet Morgan, she always has a smile on her face. And that's truly an inspiration, because for her to deal with all the issues she has to deal with on a daily basis, Morgan is someone who has to have someone with her. She cannot stay by herself. She would not be able to care for herself. But As I mentioned earlier, she's blessed because we're able to accommodate what her needs are. But because she has been so inspiring with that smile and those hugs that she gives, it really makes what I consider what my work on a daily basis is very, very easy because of the inspiration. You know, my worst day is someone's best day who has special needs in almost every case. And so I think many times we move past it if we're not one-on-one with seeing it, maybe in our family or know someone who has a situation. But once you get to know that, you start to recognize this really needs attention. And that's simply what we're trying to do, is doing some good things with inclusiveness, with the idea of ultra accessibility, but also to bring individuals with special needs and their families and their caregivers and everyone involved, because there's a big multiplier effect when we can improve their lives to improve many lives and bring them to the table for more acceptance in the world in which we live.
Fantastic. Let's finish the Q&A with a recognition of where you are. So I spent 7 years of my life in San Antonio. And I've always thought of San Antonio as a place where when there is a need for volunteers, people just kind of come out of the woodwork, right? Just boom. All right, now we've got several hundred. What do we do, right? And so, you know, San Antonio is very much a place that values a good cause and a shared mission. What kinds of experiences have you had in San Antonio that people who might be trying to do something like this somewhere else might look for as they look for the kind of support they need to launch their own initiatives?
Well, number one, as I mentioned, being blessed in the business world and also with an individual with special needs really allowed me an opportunity to say, this is something I really want to focus on. But there's no way I could even come close to the idea of doing this by myself. Unfortunately, you don't see the hundreds of thousands, the tens of thousands of people over the years that have played a major role in allowing us to do what we do and what we want to continue to do to expand. I would say if someone wanted to do this in their local community, is that they find someone who, our group that wants to do this. You know, when we started this, many people questioned whether or not it was going to be feasible, whether or not it would work. And we never took no for an answer. When Morgan's Wonderland was being developed and we went to manufacturers and they said, we don't understand why you want to make this change to a Ferris wheel. Why do you want to make this change to the carousel? Why do you need to do this and do that? When we explained it to them, they went, yeah, we should do that. And so my point is this: if somebody wants to move this opportunity forward, whether it be in any of the things that we're doing or other things that can possibly expand and assist individuals with special needs, they can do it. The time is right. The opportunities are there. You just have to have the passion and desire to want to do it. And literally the thousands of people and the hundreds of employees that we have, but also the thousands and 10,000 people that I mentioned earlier that made this possible, is because their passion and compassion in this particular community, which spread to other communities as it started here in San Antonio, as you mentioned, a very compassionate, down to earth, big city, but yet a small town, and really just moved and has become and blossomed into something so much bigger. That can happen anywhere. People just have to make the determination to be able to want to do it and make it happen. And that, I know that spirit exists out there. We will help in any way we can to expand that with the help of whoever wants to take that opportunity and move forward with it.
Fantastic. Well, I'll hand it back to you for the last word in just a minute. But for all of you who have joined us in the recording today, thank you. For those of you who are watching the recording as the program for our week's meeting of the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, we thank you for joining us. Make sure you do a couple of things. First of all, let us know you were here. Just a little bit farther down the page, you will see an opportunity to register your attendance. And if you are a visiting Rotarian making up a missed meeting, that'll generate an email to you that you can then share with your club secretary for that purpose. And then towards the bottom, you'll find the Discuss forum, DISQUS. You can leave comments about the different things that you encountered in this program and across the meeting. You can respond to other people's comments there as well. It's one of the ways in an online asynchronous club, we work with each other. And so we hope that you will take that advantage to engage with us in that space. As we always like to do, we hand it back to our speaker for the final word. So Gordon, thank you again for being here, and I hand the mic back to you.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me thank everyone for the opportunity that you've given me today to talk about what we do in the area of assisting our friends with special needs, assisting and joining in and being able to develop a more inclusive world. At Morgan's Wonderland, we never say goodbye. We always say we'll see you later. And the reason we do that is we want to always continue to grow and know that the experience that we have will bring others back. And whether that be with Morgan's Inspiration On, or the camp facility, or the sports facility, the new multi-assistance center, and the other things that we plan to do into the future, is all with the benefit of the idea of inclusion. The idea of making sure that we're not just about a certain percentage of the population, but that everyone is included. I think back to that time, as I mentioned earlier, when I saw my daughter not being included. And maybe in some ways it kind of brought some thoughts up of even when I was younger, and maybe I wasn't always included. And I think that what we have to do is think about those who are less fortunate than us in that respect. There are so many wonderful things that need to be done out there. There's so many wonderful causes. And I ask that if the opportunity exists and you see in your heart that this is something that you want to get involved in, to know that down here in San Antonio, we want to do everything we can to assist, to broaden the horizons of those who have special needs and those who have the opportunity to have special needs within their lives, to be able to bring them all together, the community at large, to make this world a better place. And so, as I often tell people, we never say goodbye. We always say we see you later. And also always tell people we're just getting started, because together we can make a difference. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Everyone, we will see you next week.